Folks, it's Fernando doing our video for More Survivalists, and in this video I'm going to be covering some of the questions that I got from my previous video regarding relocating from Ireland to Spain, where I am living now. And you guys asked several questions. This is probably going to be a bit of a longer video, but I think that several of the questions are quite interesting, so stick around. This one is from Sheepdog. He says, good luck with your new place. Hope you enjoy sun, sand, and warmer weather. No knowledge is wasted, but your newfound application of merino wool may wane in that much heat. I still wear mine at night on the beach in Maui, so you never can tell. I'm actually wearing it right now. I've used it a few days already. It's not bad. I mean, here it gets up to, yesterday we had 37 degrees, but I guess I'm more of a warm weather creature myself, so it doesn't bother me as much. Of course, being right next to the sea, just here, Mediterranean, about 300 meters, 3 blocks from where we are, so it's very close. And that wind, especially at night, it does chill a little bit, so it's really not bad, even in intense sunshine with heat. And at night, when it does chill a little bit, merino is still quite good. Yeah, this is more of a climate that allows you to do other stuff, maybe some of the heat type of clothes, like some of the polyester, some of the synthetic clothes specifically intended for high heat climates. Those work quite well. My Under Armour ones work well. Merino works well as well, and even cotton, since it very rarely rains. Now the thing with cotton is that as soon as you start sweating, cotton stays moist, wet, doesn't dry nearly as fast as, especially compared to the synthetics. I guess that all things considered, probably your Under Armour synthetics and such, clothes, sports clothes intended for very warm climates, that probably is what works well. But very forgiving climate, all things considered. Let's keep looking. Okay, here I have a ton of questions actually, so let's try to quickly go through it. I thought you hated Spain, liberal culture and education system, and didn't want your children exposed to it. Of course, everyone has the means, can move to where they want, but yeah. Well, those things that I really didn't like about the Spanish education system are still here, but it's just one more thing that you bring into the equation and take into account. A lot of that liberaloid thing regarding Spain, but basically you find it all over Europe. Some parts may be a little bit more traditional than others, but it's still. I'll give you a perfect example. For example, in Northern Ireland, I thought that we would be having more of the traditional, old school type of culture. In many ways, that's exactly what we found, and that was what we were looking for. Now, specifically regarding education, to be completely honest, the quality, at the end of the day, the quality of education that you had in Spain, in Ireland. Ireland does very well in education. Republic of Ireland does very well in education. Northern Ireland is more of a special case, as it always is with Northern Ireland, because it's under UK rule, but it is in Ireland and it's strongly influenced by it. So it's a specific case on its own. All things considered, in either Ireland or Northern Ireland, you will have good education, good schools for your kids. But one of the things that we did notice was that giving the type of education that they have, being within the UK education system, they rate kids according to the average of the class. So trying to explain a little bit, because it took me actually years to understand what they were doing with the scores and such. They grade kids, they grade all the kids in the class, and the average of that class is what you need sort of to pass. All right, so not to pass either, because even if you never get left behind with that with the UK education system. You always pass classes. No child repeats classes. So what they do is they have an average score, and if you get above that average, you get more grades, and if you get below average, you get lower grades. But for example, it would happen with my son that he would trying to explain something that's kind of complicated. But let's suppose you have an exam. You have 10 questions, and my son would get 8 questions right, he would get an A. And we were like, that's not an A. An A is when you do absolutely everything right, when it's everything perfect, when it's 100%, an A, 10 out of 10. And then we were explained by the principal of the school and such that that's not how they work. They work with an average of the class, and if you are above that average, that's an A, B, or whatnot. And if it's below that, you have a lower score. But it's not as if they're rating everyone with the same system. It's not as if you do 10 out of 10, you get an A. It's just being above that average. If you're on the top of the class, and the best score that they got in a class was 8 out of 10, if 8 out of 10 was the top score in that class, and you got 8 out of 10 as well, along with maybe 2 or 3 other kids, you all got A's. All right. And we were like, that's not right, but it's simply the way it works, and it does for kind of a mediocre way of doing things in terms of education, at least the way we were brought up, myself, my wife. We were used to A, meaning everything done great, 100%, 10 out of 10, that kind of thing. Here it's, if you're on top of the class, doesn't matter if you did it all the way or not. Now in Spain, it's more like that old school type of education that we used to have in Argentina ourselves, where an A is 100%, it's 10 out of 10, it's everything done well, and if you get anything less than an A, you start moving back from that. And here in Spain, for example, what we notice is that kids do repeat classes. There's none of this no child left behind kind of thing where all kids pass class always and they kind of try to get him on track. Here, if the child does not reach the level required, the minimum level, he has to repeat the class. And I actually have, my son is telling me about kids that have repeated 2, even 3 times that same class. So at least from that point of view, it seems to be more demanding. I don't know, we like that way of doing things because that's how we were brought up in the kind of education that we had, and we think it's prepares you for life, really, not your own little world in your own class, where if you're top of your class, then that's, you get what I mean. Yeah, I'm not trying to stay too much with each question because this is going to be taking then forever. Welcome, Fernando. I'm happy for you despite our politicians and some intolerant people. Spain continues to be a great place to live. It is. Spain is a great place. In Europe, you have overall very good places to live. Some places better than others. It also depends, what I explained in my previous video, what you're looking for in life. If you're looking for, if you're kind of an executive trying to make a great career working for your top dogs and such, maybe you have to move, live in a capital, live in London, live in Madrid, live in some other, in Germany, live in some big city where you find what you're getting. If you want more of a relaxed life, maybe you go to some of these good countries, but go to smaller towns like I did myself when living in Ireland, when living in Spain right now. Enjoy tourism, gastronomy. Yeah, food here is fantastic, man. If you haven't eaten food here in Spain, the restaurants are world class by all accounts. The food is just great, and you have to be careful with that. As a Spaniard, I'm curious to what area you relocated to. You said south of Spain, then should be Malaga or Sevilla. Malaga, yeah, that would be it. Not specifically Malaga, but a town close to Malaga, okay, close enough to Malaga. So yeah, that was a good guess actually. Hi Fernando, first of all, welcome to Spain. Argentina people adapt very quickly to our country because of the same language, culture, religion, and common ancestors. Yeah, that's true. Those things all help. I hope you find a decent job and a nice place to live. Just got surprised for your words saying that in many parts of Spain people don't speak Spanish. Dude, don't be surprised because in many parts of Spain people do not speak Spanish. Well, maybe that could happen at some small tourist towns like Mallorca or Canary. However, everyone in Spain, people know perfectly the language. Only in Catalonia, Basque Country, and Galicia, around 50% of the population speak another language. Well, dude, that's the point. In Catalonia, and I know this perfectly well because my folks have been living there for, I don't know, decades now. And in Catalonia, that's the huge problem. That's the reason why I did end up in Barcelona. They have this Catalan thing where it's kind of like Spanish, but it's not really Spanish, and it has gotten worse as years went by. It used to be that they said they were bilingual, that they spoke both Catalan and Spanish. Then they got more, more extreme with their the Catalan independence thing, and now they've reached a point where. And I know this for a fact. I'm not inventing anything. I know because my sister left the place because of this. You have kids in Barcelona that if they speak Spanish during recess in school, they get punished for it. They get sanctioned. They get punished for speaking Spanish in Spain. So it's not that everyone speaks Spanish in Spain. In Catalonia, in a place like Barcelona, people speak Catalan, and I've noticed this over the years. They speak worse and worse Spanish over the years. They think they speak it correctly because they have no clue, but they actually are speaking it worse as time goes by. Every now and then I get someone very pissed from Catalonia sending me an email in sort of Spanish, kind of angry with me, saying that they speak perfect Spanish, and the email itself that they send me, it's so horribly written with so many typos and fails of knowledge of the Spanish language that it's kind of embarrassing actually. But no, in Catalonia they don't speak Spanish. It's getting worse, and it's getting much worse. They sort of can get along with it. If you speak Spanish, they will reply, but their syntaxis is horrible, and they can barely write the language. I'm not kidding. It's getting, I've seen it in the last 10 years get so much worse. I'm telling you right now, 5-10 years from now, it will be purely embarrassing for those people to try to write even the most simple letter in Spanish. And you guys in Barcelona that are not independentistas, diehard Catalan language, whatever, you know this as well as I do. It's a very bad position, especially for a child, because they are basically banning the Spanish language in Barcelona. And if you send a kid to a school there, he will have no other options. I think that they get like an hour of Spanish per week. What can you possibly learn of a language in 1 hour a week? Nothing. It's ridiculous, but it's the way it is. And if you're happy with that, that's more power for you. But if you think that's kind of stupid, like I think, and a huge handicap on a child's future not to know, the way I see it, you either have to be very fluent in Spanish, you have to be very fluent in English, or at least one of those, or both if possible. But if you're living in Spain and you do not know Spanish properly, and by this I mean talking the language properly, but also writing the language with an acceptable amount of misspellings, of typos, that sort of thing, it should not be embarrassing for you to speak in your own language. Okay, so that's and the same thing happens in Galicia, as you mentioned it, in Galicia with Gallego, and also where is it, in Basque Country. Yeah, you can't, in Basque Country it really depends where you are, and you can still choose between sending a kid to a Spanish school or one that only speaks Euskera, or a mixture of both. So in the País Vasco, in Basque Country, you still have somewhat of a choice. Barcelona, you're screwed. You're not going to be having a kid learning proper Spanish in Barcelona. I can tell you that right now. And here you quote some law. Yeah, so relax, feel free, speak your mother language. It's a constitutional right. I know that it's a constitutional right, but you know as well as I do the situation in a place like Barcelona. It's a constitutional right, but you are banned pretty much from speaking Spanish in your schools. Sorry dude, but that's the way it is. And I'm not, I don't know if you noticed already, but I'm not in favor of that at all. I'm a pure Spanish type of guy. I think that this is very destructive and very bad for the kids in the future. Just my opinion. Maybe you have some other, again, if you're an independentista or whatever, that's your right to have your opinion. Don't you think it's a worse challenge for Spain in the intense heat and lack of water? On the long term, this is a main threat for Spain, I think. This is actually a great point. Yes, water is a key aspect. That was one of the things I really liked about Ireland. In Ireland, it rains all the time. You basically open your mouth and you're going to be having water. So water is a key. Now, let's go through the rules of 3, which say, cannot survive 3 hours without air. You cannot survive 3 hours of extreme weather exposures. You cannot live 3 days without water and 3 weeks without food. Remember that? We've talked about that many times. So water is key, but don't remember shelter. And that brings us to weather. So what happens is that based on the rule of 3, shelter is extremely important. And one of the challenges in a cold place, it's not awfully cold, but one of the challenges in a place like Ireland is staying warm. You actually have the heating on all year long, except for a couple months. In Ireland, you have it's on all year long. It's really an issue, and you guys that live up north know this as well, winters and such. But when it's pretty much all year that you have to be worrying about it, that's an issue. Even when you have very cold winters, one of the things you see all the time, people in the survival community that live in cold weather climates is staying warm. Wood, fuel, whatever it is that they're using, but heating is an issue. In a place like this, that suddenly disappears. You're basically all year long, and you know what? You have air conditioning would be. I haven't used air conditioning here a single day, and I did come kind of in the ending of summer. So it really, if you have a house that has a good architecture in terms of the design, it's nice enough that you can get by easily without having to even use your air conditioning. It's not going to be extremely comfortable, of course, but you can get by. I myself, at least here where we are, we haven't used it, and very comfortable, not a problem at all. If it had been even warmer, I would have turned it on, but air conditioning kind of removes the moisture of the air a little bit. So since it wasn't really that hot either, or at least we weren't feeling it that way, we were okay without it. So yes, water is a big thing. So it's something just that you keep in mind. Here in Malaga, you still have a little bit of rain, and maybe 4 or 5 days a month you have a little bit of rain. And when you do, actually people drown here because of the rias, which are like the streams that dry up, and all of a sudden it rains a lot. It's kind of a tropical climate, so it really rains a lot, and some people get caught by those streams. All of a sudden, these flash flood streams that catch people. But if you know about this risk, you sort of prepare well for it. In terms of water, of course, having water stored is key in a place like this. What else do we have? Spanish, don't speak Spanish. What language are spoken in the rest of Spain? Well, yeah, that's it. A number of languages. In Spain, you mostly speak Spanish, kind of in the center. Of course, Madrid would be the place where obviously Spanish is the only language that you have. A little bit center, south center, and south. Those would be the places where you have. But then on the east side, you have Catalan. Then up north, you have Euskera. Northwest, you have Galicia with the Gallego. And you have another, maybe some other things I'm forgetting. But basically, you have all those places where in some places it's worse than in others. In some places, they're kind of cool about having both languages. In a place like Catalonia, it's really insane. And they're really banning the language to a great extent. In País Vasco, I don't know if it's getting worse or not, depending on the area, but it's a place that we actually were considering. But because of that, we didn't want to get in, the potential problem of having to deal with that later on. So yeah. Glad your family has relocated safely. I hope all goes well. A few questions. Which region did you settle in? South of Spain, close to Malaga. Is the Catalan independent movement anything you consider when deciding where to live? Exactly right. The Catalan independence movement is something that I wanted to stay away from, so that's why I didn't go to Catalonia. Is there any large community of Argentines expatriates in Spain? Yes, there are, and it really depends sometimes on this place where you are. Here, where I am, in this town close to Malaga, there's lots of people from Finland, Germany, Sweden, that sort of stuff, as well as pretty much from all over the world. I hear people from with the Argentine accent all the time as well, but mostly you're speaking like Finland language. I don't understand it, but that's sort of the thing you hear on the street. It's pretty cool because it's a very international type of place. People try to speak either in English or Spanish. That's the kind of language you use on the streets so as to get stuff done. I was actually in the police department getting some of my paperwork done, and the guy, the clerk in the police department here, he didn't speak a word in Spanish. He just spoke English, and the guy was British by the accent, but not a word of Spanish. And you were wondering, what are you doing working in a government building, in a police station, and you don't even know how to speak Spanish? But it's a kind of, I like the tolerance of that. I like that, it's cool. The guy doesn't speak Spanish, even though he's working for the government in Spain, but he kind of gets someone along, and you understand one another. That's kind of the point. Is there a large community? How does the migrant refugee crisis look from southern Spain? Is there a big deal as the media makes it out to be? No, that's actually a huge topic that I'd like to cover in a separate video. The migrant crisis, the refugee, the immigration thing in general is blown up. My opinion, guys, maybe you have a completely different one. I think that migrants are people, because I am a migrant myself. I think that they deserve the respect we all deserve, and at the end of the day, it's people just trying to get by. I actually met a guy, a refugee from Syria, before coming here. I was selling some of my furniture before moving. The guy, I asked him, he dropped by my house to buy some furniture. I noticed he wasn't local, and asked. The guy was from Syria. He had moved like a couple of years ago. He's a person. He's a human being. The guy, I don't know what he did. He mentioned that his wife was a doctor. Nice enough guy, driving nice enough car. Crappy situation to deal with. He's not, the scum that the mainstream media, especially in the United States, makes people seem to be. It's people like everyone else. I think it's the same with any other migrant from any other country in the world. You have good ones, you have bad ones. It's people, and you cannot just put everyone in the same basket. And some of the crap that some folks say on the internet is really shameful, like kill them all, or But yeah, I don't want to get into that because it's sort of depressing to see what's out there in the world sometimes. So yeah. How does the migrants, migrants, basically, trying to answer your question, they assimilate quite well. And where my kids go to school, some of them are actually, I don't know much about the religion, but they seem to be Muslims, and they just get along with, you mostly see 2 or 3 of them try to bunch together, speaking the same language, which we all do. You kind of get more closely to those that speak your same language or share your same culture, but very much integrated to the place, and everyone here honestly gets along quite nicely. Now if they dump 10,000 people and no one has a place for them and it's a huge mess, of course it would be a huge mess, but it's at least here really not the case. At least most people that are here are very much integrated. Let me go through some more questions. Did the revival of the conflict between Catholics and Protestants, recent assassination of Kevin McGinn, influence your decision to move to Spain regarding Northern Ireland? No, I mean, stuff like this happens, I guess, in Northern Ireland pretty much all the time. Now the thing about Northern Ireland, and some folks got pissed with me because of my previous video regarding the problems that I saw in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is ridiculously safe at the end of the day. They do have an unusual amount of rape problems, which seems to be in Northern Ireland and UK for some reason. And I think that's very strongly linked to the kind of laws that they have, that they're very tolerant with their laws to rape and sexual abuse. No idea why that is, but you have guys that rape kids that are free on the streets, not a year later. I really don't understand why that is. But other than that, Northern Ireland is very, very safe. Northern Ireland is actually one of the safest parts of all UK. So it's not bad in terms of crime. It's bad in terms of that social divide that they clearly have between Catholics and Protestants. And you have guys from the Catholic side that think everyone in the Protestant side are monsters, and you have the guys from the Protestant side pretty much trashing those on the Catholic side, and the government is very much clearly on the Protestant side and very much encouraging some things that they really shouldn't be encouraging, such as all the hate towards Catholics, with the marches, with the burning of flags on the 11th, 12th night thing and such. Burning the flag and the symbols of the other half of the population should not be something encouraged. And at the end of the day, it is, because this is all very much protected by the local government, by the UK government, when they put millions into providing safety for these events. Instead of saying, what guys, we're not going to be allowing this anymore. No one's going to be marching on either side, discriminating and promoting hate on either side. Instead of doing that, they say, okay, we're going to be allowing it on this side, and we're going to be somewhat allowing it on the Catholic side as well, even though the Catholic marches are less than 5% of the ones taking place. But it's a problem that is strongly linked to the political aspect of the place. At the end of the day, very safe. At the end of the day, it's something that it's pretty creepy and maybe not an ideal place long term to be in if you don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. So yeah, I kind of get derailed all the time. No, I wasn't particularly worried about the Kevin McGinnian thing. Just before I left, one of the Orange Order guys ran over a Catholic girl. The guy wasn't even sent to jail for it. One of those things that make you wonder why that is. But that's the kind of thing you saw all the time. A bias against, at least from where I was seeing it, it was a very clear bias that the government had. But it's not something that I left because of that. In all honesty, I left Ireland, all of Ireland, I left because the weather, the cloudy weather was really kind of getting to me, and yeah, I just couldn't deal with that anymore. Especially because after 4 years, we honestly had gotten what we were there looking for, which was the experience of living in the different culture, the experience of having language, English as your first language, which my kids now have, which they are awfully fluent in it. And once you do have what you were looking for, you start taking other things into consideration. Let's keep seeing. Okay, first of all, okay, Spanish doesn't speak Spanish. Well, I covered that already. I did not think of moving out of Greece despite the pressing economy. I have a gut feeling that everywhere in the world you will get at least the cold shoulder if the society considers you an outsider. My efforts paid back, and after 4 years of unemployment, I found a low-paid job in the public sector, irrelevant with my studies, but I'm happy. Well, dude, you're happy in Greece. More power to you, and it's always true that saying there's no place like home. You will always miss home. I don't think that Greece was as bad as Argentina is. If I was living in Greece, I probably would have stayed in Greece myself. That would be my reply right now. Maybe when I saw maybe more of the mess, I would have moved. But then again, I'm not Greek, so I don't feel it the same way like you do. If I was living in Greece, I don't know. Yeah, maybe I would have left. Completely honest, yeah, maybe I would have left. If the situation in Argentina wasn't as bad as it was, probably would have stayed in Argentina. But it's a real personal thing, and not everyone is the same. Unless you have something like you have in Syria, where you have literally drums falling on you, bombs blowing you up to pieces, and you either leave or you die. It's a pretty personal thing. Now the thing is that timing is everything. Sometimes you either have to leave and you better do so in time, because then it will no longer be an option. Is the language proper Castilian Spanish? Wife can speak well, no, in Spain, when people speak Spanish in Spain, it's proper Spanish. So yeah, a little bit of dialect here and there, a little bit of an accent here and there, but oh yes, in Spain when they speak Spanish, it's the only Spanish. It's the same Spanish we speak. Spain, South America, Central America. In some cases they have this Tex-Mex thing, which I don't know exactly what it is, but Spanish is very clear. It's the Real Academia Española type of language thing, all right? So yeah. How did education for your children influence your decision of which area to live? Are you in the area area your parents and other families are? No, my folks, they are in Barcelona. I'm closer to Malaga, and yes, definitely my children were we went to Ireland because of the better education. We chose a specific place because of education as well. Even though Malaga, actually Andalusia, where we are, has some of the worst education quality compared to some of the other parts of Spain. But at the same time, you have to keep in that's within the context of what language they are actually speaking. I much rather have my kids, and you're in a province or in a part that hasn't got as good education as somewhere else. But if you choose a specifically good school, or a specifically good town where schools are quite good, then you sort of compensate for that. We're pretty good, okay, in terms of the education. Are you a parent? I would love to someday visit Pedro Bernal. I have no idea where that is. Were your family in the area and you choose before moving back there? No, they weren't here. How did you find a new home? Well, just look for one realtor. Yes, that's what we use, family or friends. How long did it take? Pretty fast with a realtor. Pretty much in any civilized part of the world, when you communicate with a realtor, you kind of get things going. And make sure you communicate well. Communication is key, so let them know exactly what kind of people you are, and such. That really helps. If you're a good family, with a realtor, you usually do pretty well. How long did it take? You could, a month maybe. What is rent like? Rent here is compared to Ireland. It's, of course, Spain in general. It's much more affordable than Ireland or UK. I don't know if some say 40% more cheaper, 30% cheaper, but about those lines, 40 to 30% cheaper in general is a good estimation. Spain compared to Ireland and UK. I believe that Portugal is even cheaper, but don't speak Portuguese and wasn't looking to move there. Furniture, did you bring most of it buy new when you found your home? I sold most of it, actually, sold most of my furniture, except the stuff that I really liked. I sold most of it. Did you sell your things to help paying the move? Well, the things that I did sell, the money did come in handy, of course. What is the cost of living in your new home compared to Ireland? About that, 30% cheaper, all things considered. How are the children adjusting to the new customs and culture? Do they speak Spanish? Yes, of course, we do speak Spanish. Did they know their relatives there before they move? Yes, well, my folks, my parents here, I have other relatives that I honestly haven't met yet, but they're spread all over Spain. Job situation, what's it like? Awful. The job situation here is very bad. 30-40% unemployment depending on the demographics, but unemployment still is very bad in Spain. It's actually improving quite a bit, and it's getting to the point where people are saying, you know what, those 20, 30, 40% figures, it really depends on who's actually looking for a job, because of course you have people that are not looking for a job, they're happy enough collecting their unemployment checks, which in many cases are as good as the salaries they would be getting. So in all honesty, it's probably estimated to be half of the official unemployment rate in terms of people actually looking for a job and not finding it. There's a lot of people that are really not looking honestly for a job. Were you able to bring your preps with you? What did you leave behind? I brought pretty much all that I had. How are your prices compared? Well, I already covered it in terms of grocery utilities. In general, that would be about 30% cheaper. How long did it take to move? Dude, you're asking the same question several times. From the decision to make and leave and packing and then unpacking. Well, man, unpacking about maybe the last couple of weeks. The last week was pretty crazy, and here getting things settled. The first week was insane. I was just floating, cruising along it all. So maybe it takes you a month to get somewhat settled. A couple months to get a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, maybe after a year you truly feel that you're now living somewhere, especially with all the things that you have to do. But the process of moving in general would be like a month between the things that you pack and such, and between you actually end up leaving. Folks, it's gonna be all for now, and I'm gonna be doing a separate video answering a few more questions, because this is really taking a lot of time. So folks, stay tuned for part 2 of the question and answer videos regarding moving to Spain. Take care, see you in our next video.